So now we are moving on to our next speaker, who is Laura Lecuona from Mexico. Laura has a degree in philosophy. She's an editor and translator, and she's also a feminism communicator. She's a country contact for the Women's Declaration International Mexico's chapter. And as I said before, she will present language and the current backlash against women's rights to freedom of opinion and of expression, which is related to the Article 4 of the Declaration. Over to you, Laura.
I'm going to talk about the Article 4 of the Declaration on Women's Sex-Based Rights. This article reaffirms women's rights to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression and reads as follows. A, states should ensure that women have the right to hold opinions without interference. This should include the right to hold and express opinions about gender identity without being subject to harassment, persecution, or punishment. B, states should uphold women's right to freedom of expression, including the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing, or in print, in the form of art, or through any other media. This should include the freedom to communicate ideas about gender identity without being subject to harassment, persecution, or punishment. C, states should uphold the right of everyone to describe others on the basis of their sex rather than their gender identity in all contexts. States should recognize that attempts by state agencies, public bodies, and private organizations to compel individuals to use terms related to gender identity rather than sex are a form of discrimination against women and shall take measures to eliminate this form of discrimination. And finally, D, states should prohibit any form of sanctioning, prosecution, or punishment of persons who reject attempts to compel them to identify others on the basis of gender identity rather than sex. All over the world, women are being harassed, prosecuted, and punished for holding, let alone publicly stating, the view that men cannot be women, women don't have penises, and there is not such thing as a gender identity. That is, we don't have gendered souls. Our tastes, personalities, abilities, and inclinations don't have anything to do with us being men or women. These demonized women know that gender is just another word for sexist stereotypes. And of course, these women, we don't see anything positive in the attempts to replace, quote, the category of sex, which is biological, with the language of gender, which refers to stereotyped sex roles in United Nations documents, strategies, and actions, because this has led to confusion, which ultimately risks undermining the protection of women's human rights. We, these demonized women, are very worried indeed. Now, this talk of gender identity is everywhere, and you see people, even women, celebrating the undermining of women's rights in the name of feminism. How have we got here? How have women, media, and the institutions come to be so amazingly captured by these ideas? By various kinds of strategies. Money plays a huge part in it, of course. Also, emotional blackmail is a very effective weapon. And through language, bit by bit. First, they tell you, use their preferred pronouns. How difficult can it be? If you don't use their preferred pronouns, they might be triggered. Be kind. And then you cave in. You gently start calling some men she, and in gender languages, as in Spanish, start referring to them in the feminine form, just to be nice. When some of those men commit crimes, because that's not an unusual thing for a man to do, the newspapers say, she raped, she killed, she had a huge collection of child pornography. She. The female crime statistics start rocketing as if by magic. Sometimes we know those rapists, killers, and child abusers are not women at all, only because of the photograph accompanying the text. Sometimes we just have to guess because this tiny bit of information, just a small detail, is hidden from public view. because it would be rude to imply that this rapist, killer, or child abuser was a man. We have to be kind to him. Then, when those rapists you called she are convicted, they prefer to be in a female prison. Of course they do. So we don't only use their preferred pronouns, we let them go into their preferred facilities. Some men like sports, but are not so good at them. So they start saying they identify as women, asking the rest of the world to call them she, and the world complies. Then they start competing in the female categories. That's what they prefer. Oh, they are so much more comfortable there. They not only win the medals and break records, they also get to be naked among naked women who didn't consent and weren't asked. And you say, oh, she's such a marvelous young woman. She has broken all world records in her category. How superior she is. But see those people over there? They are mean. They say she's a male. How dare they? But by now, maybe you have managed to believe it yourself. He's a woman with a penis. You started playing the pronouns game, and now you can't even notice that we are talking about a male, who, by the way, is a cheat, and from the moment he went in the women's locker room, an abuser. If you hadn't allowed this language to enter into your mind and your vocabulary, it would be much easier for you to see what is really happening and to get angry and act accordingly. Your docility and kindness took you to an awkward place. You are marvelously deceiving yourself. The self-deception you engaged in was made possible by language, starting with pronouns, these tiny harmless words, those 3 or 4 letters, she, her. How hard could it be calling him she? And now pronouns are interfering with your ability to think clearly. Pronouns are constraining your thought. The pronouns game comes in a package, along with a series of rules and weird ideas. You also have to believe sex is assigned at birth, sex is a social construct, men are women if they say so, men can have periods and get pregnant, some teenage girls have to take testosterone and have a double mastectomy in order to find their true selves. You have to believe this. Maybe it all starts as a make-believe belief. Maybe initially you don't really think a man who says he is a woman is literally one. Here's how it goes. A man says he believes he's a woman, he feels like a woman. Then a woman must automatically believe that he literally is a woman. And this woman makes her feminism about defending the presumed right of that man to impose his inner belief to the rest of the world. But does this arise from a firm belief that they are women, or from a very feminine desire to be accepted by them, by society? Thanks to the pronoun game and the gaslighting and deception that go with it, you don't see, as we do, men invading feminism and women's spaces. You see fragile and oppressed women suffering exclusion and discrimination. But we are looking at the exact same men engaging in the very same actions. What changed? Why are our views so different? You wanted to believe they were women. You managed to convince yourself you believed it. And now, sometimes you act as if you really believed it. Some of your actions are compatible with the belief that they are women. Nevertheless, some other actions betray you and bring to light what you really think. Because if you truly believed they are women, are you sure you would be so obedient and complying and submissive? I've seen women who are naturally afraid of predatory men and who don't want men in feminist protests melting and relinquishing if the man in question says he feels like a woman on the inside. So their defense mechanisms magically disappear because of this belief in the man's head, which she now believes she has the duty to hold. Otherwise, she's a bad person. As he believes it, now she necessarily has to believe it too. There's a man in front of you. He wants to enter your female-only space, say your lesbian book club. You say, no way. And then he says, but I'm a woman. In fact, I'm a lesbian. I have a female gender identity and I'm attracted to women, so I'm a lesbian. You say, I'm awfully sorry for my mistake. You are welcome, sister. Now, please tell us, what should we read next? Everything is different now due to the sole fact of him saying, I'm a woman. What magical properties does this statement possess coming from a man? And do you notice? You yourself see a man unless he tells you otherwise. You don't believe your own reasoning. You needed him to tell you what you yourself were seeing with your own eyes. Furthermore, because he told you he is a woman, you decided that he belonged in a lesbian space without asking your lesbian so-called sisters. You put him above all of them. Why? Just because you don't want to be called a gatekeeper? I even see feminists who call themselves gender critical, who sometimes even call themselves radical feminists. So women who know men can't be women and there's no such thing as a gender identity, indulging some men and using their preferred pronouns. Out of kindness and fear, many women are letting our hard-won sex-based rights slip away. Told to be kind, many women are playing the dangerous pronoun game. Out of kindness and fear, many are accepting uncritically such which were foreign to them until some males told them, you have to believe this. Out of kindness and fear, they are allowing others to tell them how to think, what to believe. If you use their language and engage in their language games, you are abiding by their rules, that is, men's rules. You are letting them win. You are giving them an extraordinary power over your mind, your ideas, your opinions, your actions, and over the lives of other women. Please don't.